All right, welcome everyone to the Temple Health and Bioscience District's March Lunch and Learn webinar. Today we're going to be learning about lean business planning with Josh Fegles, our speaker. Josh oversees the government and academic sales for Palo Alto Software. In his role, he partners with educators at all levels of higher education to enhance entrepreneurship education. Josh also works closely with incubators, accelerators, and other programs in the entrepreneurial space ecosystem to positively impact startups and growth stage companies. As an entrepreneur himself, he has a passion for helping businesses succeed. Just for those of you who might be tuning in for the first time, feel free to drop in any of your questions in the question panel over there, and we'll get to all of those at the end. And then if you're interested in keeping Josh's presentation from today, it is included in the handout section, so you can go ahead and download it. Otherwise, we'll also record it, and it'll be available on our YouTube channel. So with all that being said, Josh, go ahead and take it away, and thank you for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. And thanks everybody who has joined today. I'm excited to talk about lean planning. It's the space that I and my colleagues at Palo Alto Software, we live in and day out. And so we're excited to share with you our research, our findings, what our customers have shared, and ultimately what it means to have a lean approach to planning, specifically in contrast to the traditional business planning days of old. So as we go through here, a couple of things just wanted to highlight is that the things I'm going to talk about are based off of peer-reviewed research, in-class experiences, reports from our partners, and lending success metrics, as well as over 1 million different users that we've worked with over the years in our business planning software. So for today, a couple of things, just things that you could expect to take away. One, just understand what lean planning is, again, compared to business planning in a traditional sense. We want to discuss the values of lean planning as well as the research that supports it as a best practice. I want you to know the tangible next steps to start lean planning today. So wherever you're at in ideation, if you think you might have a business idea, or if you're in a growth stage business, you've been successful for many years, or you're somewhere in between, lean planning has application for all entrepreneurs, for all businesses at all stages. And then we've got some additional resources, learning, research, some websites I'm going to suggest if you want to go in and dig a little bit deeper, do a deeper dive, and then ultimately how to apply these principles. So for the agenda, we'll do some quick introductions. We'll take a look at lean planning research and then dive into what lean planning is and how to implement it. And then again, I want it to be very practical as far as next steps. And then we'll finish with some Q&A. So first of all, who we are, as I was introduced, my name is Josh Fegles. I do work for Palo Alto Software, and we've been as a business in the planning space for over 30 years, both in terms of consulting, advising, but then also in offering software solutions for entrepreneurs. And then I myself am an entrepreneur. I started a company in 2011 and grew that company through the support of a local SBDC in Oregon. And so I've kind of walked a mile in the shoes of where you all are at as well. So I come at it from both ends. Additionally, Palo Alto Software is a small business. You know, we've got, I think, close to 80 or 85 employees now, almost 100. As mentioned, we've been in business for 30 years. So, but we're still considered a small business. We're still family owned. And so we have all of the benefits of being small while also having all of the benefits of being a global country, a global company that has reach in over 180 countries. Our mission is to help people succeed in business. That's why we do webinars like this. That's why we partner with incubators and accelerators, you know, mentoring programs, education-based programs. Is our goal is to, you know, kind of have that rising tide, that every successful entrepreneur is one more successful business that builds a more stable and successful economy. And so we're passionate about bringing those tools to market and kind of having a free exchange of ideas. And so hopefully this will help contribute as well to your success in entrepreneurship. One of the things I want to highlight, I mentioned a couple of that I'll be sharing a few resources, websites, bplans.com. It's a website that we built 20 plus years ago, but everything on bplans.com is entirely free. And that's why I wanted to really highlight this as a resource for you as you're looking for articles, as you're looking for templates, tips and resources, things that will help you get your businesses to the next level. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of articles and resources there, and again, it's all free. It's the largest, most visited business planning site on the web. We have over 2 million unique visits per month, so hopefully you'll get a lot of value out of that. If you've got feedback and there's things you're looking for and you can't find it, reach out and let us know. But again, bplans.com is a great resource for you. So part of I mentioned part of our 30 years of helping people succeed has been mentoring, has been consulting, has been business planning, but a primary focus of what we do is we bring software solutions to the market. So B-Plans, again, that's free. We have a software called LivePlan at liveplan.com. Today's call isn't about LivePlan per se, it's about lean planning, but I will get into LivePlan at a couple of different times as we're talking about some of the lean planning concepts. So just wanted to let you know up front that we do have that tool. Again, it's used in over 180 countries. It's focused on the needs of entrepreneurs and helping with planning, specifically with lean planning. Mentioned we've got over 1 million users in LivePlan worldwide. And this slide is really just a tip of the hat to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. You know, you've got local incubators, local accelerators, you've got local mentors, local counselors. Our nation here in the US under the Small Business Administration is rich with resources for you as entrepreneurs. And so all of these here that you're looking at here, you can learn more about at sba.gov, and that stands for Small Business Administration.gov. There at the sba.gov, there are also business planning templates, again, free resources, things that will allow you to apply these principles of lean planning at no cost. So I want to make sure that you're aware of sba.gov, as well as some of these areas where you can get additional support and counseling and partnership. This is just a quick nod to our work in academia. We're working in over 500 different universities at the college level all the way through the doctoral level. Our work is, one, again, with that mission, we want to support entrepreneurs to be successful, but then we also learn a lot from the educators that are on the cutting edge of lean planning principles, of what the market requires, what entrepreneurship, successful entrepreneurship looks like. So we wanted to just mention that we're in all of those places, and again, that's why we're here today. So that's a quick introduction, again, about me, Palo Alto Software, but without further ado, let's dive into the industry trends about lean planning. So one quick couple of stats as far as the data. You know, 99.7% of all businesses in the US are small businesses. So if that's you, you're in good company. Millions and millions of small businesses are actually what make up the majority of the US economy. But, and this is to draw your attention to the fact that there are many that start, but ultimately the goal is we want many that succeed. And so if we look at those stats down below, you know, 80% make it through the first year, if we look at that from the opposite perspective. And then again, 66% make it through the second year, but only 50% make it through the fifth year. And then 10 years, only 30%. And so our goal is to work with you all and to help raise those numbers. You know, ultimately for every entrepreneur, you don't want to just be a statistic, you want to be a success story. And so part of becoming that success story is the implementation of lean planning. So just as a quick kind of, let's survey the reality of entrepreneurship, there are tons of businesses, but there is that success curve that we're fighting towards, you know, making sure that you all are successful long-term beyond that 10th year. A lot of the reasons, top reasons why small businesses fail, you see, you know, 19% are out-competed, so it just might be a very packed space where there are many competitors and they get the edge over you, or there are things that edge you out. 23% don't have the right team, and so it's important to make sure that as you're maybe a solopreneur, or you've got maybe just a business partner, that you are really strategic about surrounding yourself with expertise, again, through the accelerators, the incubators, the mentoring, and the consulting networks. 29% fail because they run out of cash. And this is something that lean planning is designed to help you overcome, and that's to manage cash flow as well as profitability. A lot of times, bottom line, entrepreneurs are looking at, is this a feasible business? Am I profitable as a business? Certainly, that is a first layer question. There's no reason to start a business that won't ever be profitable. But once you've crossed over that threshold and you know that you've run the numbers, you've done your best estimating into the future, you'll be profitable with this business model, with these expenses and with this revenue coming in and so on, it's critically important that you manage cash effectively, as you can see here, because almost 30% are running out of cash as far as is one of the reasons why businesses fail. Last couple of stats here, 42%, there's no market need for products or services. So that, again, is a reason to go out and do customer validation. You don't want to just kind of hole away and come out with this, this business plan, master's thesis that you've never tested with the market, and maybe you're the only one who thinks that idea is the right idea. And then again, 82% experiencing cash flow problems. So running out of cash and cash flow problems are often kind of go hand in hand. So take a look at that and think through your current state, as maybe you're pre-revenue or you're pre-venture, and this is a proactive look at what some of those problems could be as you launch and grow your business. Maybe you're actually in the midst of everything right now, and you can identify with some of those pain points, and you might say, yeah, right now the competition is really fierce, or gosh, I really don't have the right team in place. I'm trying to do everything and I'm pulling my hair out. Or cash is a pain point, or maybe you need to go back to the customer discovery and pivot as a business to bring a different product or service to the market if your current market isn't desiring your current product. So take a look at those and think about those as we're going through the rest of the talk today. All right, did you know entrepreneurs who complete a business plan were 2.6 times more likely to start their business than those who did not complete their plan? That's a huge statistic as far as wanting to, think in terms of all the different approaches to launching a business. I'd say right now in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, we're very blessed. We've got a huge, rich pool of different exercises and different methods for launching a business. But statistically, one of the methods you're going to want to have in the mix is lean planning, is business planning, because that's going to shore up the likelihood that you're able to start your business. It then goes on to say 94% or more likely to get an investment. Now, recognize that the vast majority of entrepreneurs end up self-funding startups. They bootstrap, they might be working a job, a full-time job while they're starting their business on the side. So there's actually a lot of entrepreneurs who don't seek investment. However, you might be one of the entrepreneurs who needs to seek investment. You need that angel investor, that venture capitalist. You need a loan from the local credit union or the bank, or a grant. A business plan is going to make you 94% more likely to get that capital infusion. Again, the United States Small Business Administration, we talked about that. The SBA refers to a business plan as an essential roadmap for success. Now, you may have heard or maybe read that business planning, that's kind of an older traditional method. We don't really do that anymore. In a way, we would agree. The old methods of writing a 60-page, 70-page business plan that tries to detail out every single possible future, it's too long. Current investors aren't interested in reading that much. And frankly, by the time you're done with a document like that, likely the market has changed, the competition has changed. Maybe you as an entrepreneur has changed. And so that really sets us up for this conversation about lean planning. What's the difference and how do we do that? Few more statistics in terms of our research. Two similar ventures with the same number of employees at startup, but one with a business plan and one without, will diverge in scale after startup. In particular, the venture with the business plan will grow faster. Now, again, that doesn't mean we're asking you to do a traditional business plan. That's where lean planning is gonna offer up these types of results. The second stat here, business plans may help. Sorry, let me try that again. Business plans may help less able entrepreneurs to catch up and surpass their abler counterparts without plans. So maybe you're a new entrepreneur and you've got this this recipe or this new invention or this wonderful service, or just maybe there's a new retail space or restaurant in your area, or it could be something engineering focused or biotech or medical, whatever industry you're coming from. Even if you're a brand new entrepreneur, or even if there might be others who have more experience, the business plan is going to be that differentiator. It's going to be the difference maker. Let's read this last one. The key result is that ventures with written business plans grew faster than those without written business plans. Now, as a qualifier, sometimes that might be a one-page written business plan. Sometimes that might be something as simple as like a business model canvas or something where you're just you're detailing out, here's my value statement, here's my market, here's my revenue. It doesn't have to be that lender ready business plan. So we're actually going to talk about a spectrum of planning today. A couple more stats for you. Planning makes newly formed businesses 60% more likely to succeed in their first year. Companies with a plan grow 30% faster than companies without a plan, and 60% of small businesses that fail in America were profitable. They just simply ran out of cash. And so that's back to that pain point we talked about earlier. Part of a plan, part of forecasting is to make sure that as you're operating your business, as you launch, as you're growing, that you're able to make sure that you stay cash flow positive and profitable all at the same time. So needless to say, lean planning can help make a difference in these areas. But how are we going to do that? Let's talk about lean principles. So is there a best amount of planning? I've talked about the spectrum, traditional, lean, even business model canvas. The reality about lean planning is that it's going to be as unique as you as the entrepreneur. There are going to be some overlap, some similarities where you and a different entrepreneur are going to, yeah, we've got to cover these areas, but you know what, with my industry, I've got to cover this. With your industry, you've got to cover that. If you're a growth stage business and things have been clipping along and everything's great, but you're just looking to expand your product offering, you're looking to hire additional sales staff or a new manager, maybe you're looking to have a new location, you won't necessarily need to do a full business plan. You might actually just do a financial forecast and some what if scenarios. If you're brand new to this ideation and you think, hey, I've got an idea, what you're probably going to want to start with is a one-page plan or a business model canvas, and then just start to tip your toe into the water as far as forecasting. So whoever you are, wherever you're at, what I want you to do in today's talk is ask yourself which of these principles fits me where I'm at today. Certainly not all the principles are going to be applicable all at once, all the time. So it's going to be unique, but know that some of this is for you today. So the evolution of a business plan, lean planning, how we create a lean business plan. So the leanest, most appropriate plan for any business at any stage is going to be more of a process than an event. We talk about planning events a lot here internally, and a planning event is typically where someone externally is asking you for a formal plan. Typically that'll be a lender. That'll be an investor or someone who wants you to produce a formalized document. That's an important event in the life of the business. However, that is just a timestamp. You put some work into creating a forecast, to do some planning, and then you deliver that as a deliverable to that person or that entity that's asking you for it. But that's actually just the beginning. Start thinking about business planning in terms of an ongoing activity. Think of it as a mindset, an entrepreneurial mindset. As entrepreneurs, typically entrepreneurs are continuously creative, imaginative, thinking in terms of new opportunities, new products, new services, always inventing and reinventing. In that same way, bringing planning into that creative space allows you to stay current with the market, stay current with the competition, make adjustments as needed to your operations and your management and your financials so that you're able to progress successfully and make it through to the long term. So again, it's about the planning, not just the plan. Here are a couple of good books for further reading: The Lean Startup, Business Model Generation, The Startup Owner's Manual. These all focus on a subject called Lean Startup. And Lean Startup is for the earliest stage businesses where you produce something called an MVP, a minimum viable product. And what that means is, rather than coming up with an idea and going all the way through to development to the degree where then you have this dramatic presentation to the market and hope that the market will receive your product or service. With the MVP, what you're doing is you're bringing something that's a current iteration. It's just an okay version, and let's see what feedback we get. Let's go out and interview customers. Let's see what the interest is, what the pain point is, what that solution might be. Come back, make a 2.0 version, and then bring it back to the market and continue with that iterative process. The lean canvas, or the business model canvas, you can see there right there in the middle. It's very simple. You've got, number one, you've got the problem. Number two, we're looking at the customer segment. Number three, the unique value proposition. So these are all topics that you'll want to address within Lean Startup as an ideator, as a startup, as a future business owner. Now with Lean Planning, we actually take those concepts and then move them to maturation. We want to take that as a beginning place and then move it to how do we manage our business based off of these concepts. So with Lean Startup, you basically build something and then you measure it and then you learn from it. And as you can see with that, it's a cyclical pattern where we described it's like, here's my 1.0 version. Maybe what that looks like for your company is you just bring one product to market and get feedback. Or let's say if you're a food company, you might start testing your recipes, get some samples out there, get people's feedback. But ultimately, the sooner you can engage your potential customer, your marketplace, to get their feedback, the more actively you're able to adjust your offering to be in alignment with their need or their problem. So that is a very brief summary of Lean Startup. Again, these books, if you want to read more about Lean Startup, those are great reference points. Now, Steve Blank is actually one of the authors there of the Startup Owner's Manual. Kind of the father of Lean Startup is Steve Blank. And he says Lean is not a substitute for a business plan, it's the precursor. And so we've seen in the industry, maybe you've been in those conversations, just that kind of the throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's either traditional planning or it's Lean Startup. And that actually brings us to today's conversation about lean planning. It's actually both. It's all of the above. It's the principles of tried and true tested traditional planning with the effectiveness of the Lean Startup movement and how that's allowed entrepreneurs to to more quickly come to market and more and identify those pain points and produce those solutions. So it's a both and. So that's where lean planning comes in. So we've added kind of a fourth element to this cyclical process. So you add the plan, you take the time to, whether it's a very simple one-page plan or a 10 or 15-page plan, you get some numbers together, you put some semblance of a plan together, you execute or you run that plan, but then you review it and say, is it working? You know, any plan is a best guess. There are all these key assumptions. You're guessing toward the future. And so what you're always asking yourself is, you know, what I knew then when I put the plan into place, and then hopefully was, you know, a month ago, not 2 years ago when you put in the plan. What I knew then was X. What I know now is Y. So what's the difference between the two? And let's revise. Let's review that. Let's revise. Let's adjust the plan, and then continue through the cyclical process. Run, review, revise, and plan. So we talk about validation. We want you to always test these things. Too often the idea of planning is seen as a solo activity where, okay, again, the planning event, the lender's asking for a business plan, so I've got to kind of just lock myself into a room until I come out with this finished document. But that's only a document for one. You need a document, or rather a plan, that addresses the needs of the masses or the market. And so what we want you to do as you're going through this lean planning is always be validating, be testing. I put IBIS World on there as an example of some, and this is a tool that you might be able to access through your local library. You might be able to access through the Small Business Development Center, your local incubator. But IBIS World is one of a number of different tools out there that provide industry research, where you can say, I'm this type of business. I'm looking to find out what other similar businesses like mine, what they're doing to target my industry, who is the market, what is their normal spend on different types of expenses. And so you can actually glean a lot of information about who's already out there in the market meeting the needs of your customers in your industry. So again, IBIS World is one example of that. I mentioned customer interviews. That may be a real obvious one to some of you if you've already been kind of experimenting with the lean startup. Customer interviews is basically as simple as getting out and talking to your customer. It may be great that you have talked to your friends and family about your idea. Typically, and there are exceptions to the rule, but typically friends and family will be, you know, probably encouraging and say, oh, this is great. But the real test is when you go and talk to strangers. So getting out there and talking to people who could be potential customers and just asking them questions. Let them know what you're looking to do, what you're hopefully bringing to market, see what their thoughts are, what their questions are, see what they think they would possibly pay for something like that service or that product. So getting out there, doing the customer interviews. Competitive research, one thing that we often recommend is if in your town or in your space, you know that there are other people that are offering similar solutions or that are similar products or companies, go spend some time at that location or go do some interviews. Find out what's going on in those businesses, how kind of what their unique aspect is, so that then you can differentiate. So basically the goal of this process of validation and testing is to not just be in an office or in a room somewhere in isolation, but get out there, do your research, do your homework, and find out what's really going on out there in the market. Now, an additional element of this lean planning, so a lot of what we're talking about there is more on the conceptual, the key assumptions, the strategy, but the flip side of that is implementing lean planning around the financials. And this is often something that entrepreneurs either leave for the end or they outsource to someone else who they perceive of as an expert. But let me tell you, any entrepreneur can go through this lean planning process regarding their financials and should, so that you've got a handle on what's going on ultimately with the business. Any idea, any product or service, any exciting entrepreneurial venture is effectively only a valid activity if at the end of the day you can see a profitable bottom line. Otherwise, it's just a hobby, it's a fun idea, but for it to be a viable business, the financials have to come in. And you can see here on the right, that cyclical element, we want to set those goals, we want a forecast in place. So here's, we want to be profitable by month 12, or we want to be, cash flow positive or break even by, this month, and then we want to grow by this amount over X number of years. So set those goals. One of which might be, the first goal would be just to pay yourself. If you're an earlier stage business, you might say, well, I want to quit my job and be fully funded, or I want to be, working full-time in my business and taking home a livable wage by, this date in the future. Set those goals. Then the next part of the process is to build that forecast. Well, what would that mean? How many units would I need to sell? How many billable hours would I need to schedule? How much would I need to charge for that product or service based off of that number of units that I'm going to sell in order to have a gross revenue, a total amount of income coming in that then after costs and expenses can pay for me to work full time. Those are critical pieces. But what I want to really highlight is that that's a moving target in a lot of ways. And sometimes entrepreneurs will get hung up on the idea of forecasting because it feels like they're trying to tell the future. And in fact, that's actually what you're doing. You are trying to tell the future. With lean planning, what we're doing is we're reviewing those assumptions on a cyclical recurring basis, typically on a monthly basis. So you're going to want to, at the end of each month or halfway through each month, take a look back at your plan and your forecast and say, where are we at compared to where we thought we would be or where we hoped we would be? And then whatever the variance is, identify the why behind that. Maybe you're ahead. Well, that would be great if things are going better than you planned. Well, let's understand strategically why that's happening so that then we can reproduce that. And maybe then we adjust our plan according to the greater level of success that we're finding in the market. The inverse of that is also true. Maybe you planned to be at X, but you're actually at Y, which is less than where you thought you would be. Well, what you're going to need to do then is change something in terms of your operations or possibly your pricing, or so you start tweaking with the variables of your business so that then you can either get back on plan or you need to go adjust the plan so that next month you actually have a more realistic version of where the future is going to take you. So again, it's all very cyclical. It's not static. It's not a one-time event. It's a process. It's an activity that's critical to successful entrepreneurship. I like this just as an example in terms of planning and setting goals. This nice interaction between Alice and the cat. Alice says, would you tell me please which way I ought to go from here? And that depends a good deal on where you want to get to, said the cat. And she says, I don't much care where, said Alice. Then it doesn't matter which way you go, said the cat. And I love that. It's so obvious, but it's also such a good reminder that we have to set goals as a business in order to know if we're getting there. We have to know what our specifically where we're going. What is our differentiator from the competition? What is our value statement to the market? What is the solution to the problem that our potential customer has? All right, so lean planning in practice. So let's move on. So we talked about business model canvas a little bit. So think about this. The business ideas are just that. We want to bring those ideas to the market, but planning is actually going to help refine those ideas and figure out which ones are a go or a no-go. And the way that we flesh that out is with something called a business model canvas, or what we call a pitch page. So again, bplans.com I mentioned earlier, everything there is free. Over here on the right, you can see it's similar to business model canvas. We want to identify, who we are as a business, the problem we're solving, the solution, our target market, the competition. Each of these sections need to be answered in order to have a solid foundation for moving forward for an early stage business. Now, you may not know the answer to all of those sections, so we even recommend putting in, I don't know, or need to do research, or TBD, and then bring that back to the incubator, or the accelerator, your mentor, someone who can help guide you through that process. It's okay and frankly expected for earlier stage entrepreneurs especially to not know all the answers. But what we've got to identify pretty quickly is what you do know and what you don't know, so that then we can come up with a plan for progression. Additionally, as you're doing some of these earlier stage activities, you also want to, similar to customer research, engage your community. So if you identify, oh, my business is about XYZ, and there's a problem that we've identified in the market, we're going to solve it by doing ABC. Share that with as many people as you can and listen to their questions, because their questions are going to guide you toward more clarity in your statement of purpose, as well as understanding how valid that pain point in the market is and if your solution really is going to solve that. So a couple other options. So Canvanizer, this is a great website. This is for free business model canvas. So you just go to canvanizer.com and that'll walk you through the business model canvas process. It's all online, it's free, it's great. So again, bplans.com, you've got this pitch template, canvanizer.com, you've got a business model canvas. And then of course we have LivePlan. LivePlan is, it's not a free tool, so I want to make sure to highlight those others. But LivePlan is also a great tool where you can, in the cloud, do those same activities where you're going to be building out that problem, solution, target market, and so on. All right, so step one, again, is create a one-page plan, a business model canvas, or a pitch. So that is the simplest thing you can do as far as lean planning, is start to get those ideas into a structured format so that you can then get feedback from those in your network and those in your community. So step one for lean planning is have a living one-page pitch plan or model canvas. So step two for lean planning is do your research. We mentioned the IBIS World earlier. I mentioned you possibly go into your local libraries to see if they have IBIS World. I know we're based in Eugene, Oregon, and the local community library just down the street, they've got IBIS World available. They partner with the Small Business Development Center to get the counseling going. There are other tools called that you may have heard of called Profit Sense. Same kind of a thing. It's a very robust industry data resource. So look for those tools in your community. Additionally, LivePlan has something like that where you can get in and pull in industry data sets so that you can look and see what gross profit, what net profit, how much inventory to keep on hand, different statistics like that, data sets that will then help you to get your bearings as you're stepping into the next stages of planning. So understand your industry, know what's reasonable, feasible. A lot of times we hear of those companies that they go from zero to millions overnight, and the reality is that most business ventures are not going to be that. Most are going to be kind of a slow and steady, predictable growth rate, and so it's important just to know what you can expect in terms of your type of industry. If you've got a coffee shop, or you've got a restaurant or a bar or a dog walking business, or whatever the business might be that you've got, know what others are doing so that then you can set your expectations. So step two, do your research. And that really goes hand in hand with step one. As you're building out that one-page business model canvas or that one-page pitch or business plan, you're going to need to get out there and do that research to really fill in those blanks of that one-page plan. All right, so step 3, oh, actually, this is just one more page just about research and benchmarks. One of the exercises, and I mentioned before, is that idea of customer validation. So not only is it valuable to get the industry reports and know what the data says, but then get out there, kind of hit the streets, talk to the people who are your potential customer, so that then you can gather that that more relational, informal data and add that into the mix as far as completing the circle. All right, so let me skip ahead now. So step 3, and this is where I think a lot of people start to, gloss over. The first part is exciting. You're getting your ideas down there. You're telling your story. This is what we're going to do. But as soon as we start to talk about numbers, it can get a little bit scary. And so what we recommend is at a first level, at the lowest level. In fact, let me switch over just to live plan to show you this concept. Well, actually, let's even start in the pitch page. At the simplest level of a forecast, and let me make sure that my screen is showing. Yep, good. So you can see here, the simplest forecasts here are 5 bullet points about revenue and 5 bullet points about cost. So this bike shop example, you might look at this and say, well, that's not really a forecast. Well, it is. It's just a very early stage lean forecast. So where's the money coming from? Well, for Garrett's bike shop, it's bikes, some clothing, repairs, used bikes, and then a unique relationship with the university where they're going to do some patrolling. So money's coming in through XYZ. Now, where's the money going? So major costs, employees, bikes, so inventory, things that you're going to sell, rent, marketing, any accounting, bookkeeping, legal. So that's kind of the first step that you might take if you're very early stage, is just get out a piece of paper and make those 2 categories, money coming in and money going out. You may not know anything more than that. You might not know price points. You might not know cost of rent in your area. You might not have an idea of what percentage marketing spend. Those are all questions to be determined. But as far as a simple, easy, very lean forecast, start with categories and bullet points. Now, this all can be done in a spreadsheet again. So just so I'm using live plan as a convenience for our conversation today, but just so you know, you can pull up an Excel spreadsheet, you can pull up a Google spreadsheet, and you can do that work in a free templates and different various tools. But one of the things I want to walk you through, because ultimately what you want to do is start down that process. And if we go back here to the slide, one of my points is that we want a 12-month projection. It can be simple. It doesn't have to be a full in-depth. Like right now, we've got, if we go to this profit and loss statement, we've got, gosh, lots of numbers in there, balance sheet, cash flow, again, lots of numbers. Don't be scared off by that. Start with, okay, revenue. Where's the money coming from? So you can go through here, and I'm just going to put in a quick example for our time together. So, whatever it is, you fill in the blank as we're going through this activity. Where's the money coming from? Fill in the blank. What type of revenue stream is that? Are we selling units? So like for Garrett's bike shop, a lot of times I think about, maybe he's selling power bars at checkout. And so we could go through an activity of, well, how much revenue are those power bars going to bring in? So, let's think about how many units, actual units of power bars. So we could click on that, or maybe your revenue is billable hours. You've got a service that you're billing by the hour, maybe recurring charges, where you've got some subscription model, or you've got like a CrossFit gym or different things like that. So think through what type of revenue stream. And then, so for those power bars, let's say Garrett wants to sell 50, well, I don't know, maybe there's 12 in a box. So let's just say 10 boxes in the first month. So 120 power bars. Now, what I want you to think conceptually in terms of lean planning is think in terms of 12 months. It's very easy to think about. It's conceptual. And what you can do is think in terms of the first month. And then I always like to say in terms of bookends, think about the last month. So Garrett in that first month says, I hope to sell through 10 boxes, that's 120. You know, maybe by the end of the year, every month we're selling through 20 boxes. You know, I don't know, just take a guess. So put in 240 as those bookends. And then in your spreadsheet or in Live Plan, you know, you can just kind of incrementally increase that. You know, for our demo here, I'm just going to connect the dots here. But basically what you want to do is just get something on the page. Again, we're predicting the future here, so it's part science, part art. And then I'm just going to skip through this here just to scoot through, because what I want you to think in terms of the concepts is that lean planning isn't about perfection. And I think a lot of times when people approach planning, they think, oh, this is kind of stressful. I may not feel equipped, but ultimately, best guess is the best you can do today. The great thing about it, here, let's see, these are $3 power bars. The best thing that you can do is put in your best guess today, because lean planning, it doesn't have to be a final process, because you're going to be coming back to it regularly. And so what you know a month from now as an entrepreneur, as you learn, as you go further with your business, as you engage your competition, as you have successes and failures, a month from now when you revisit this, you're going to know more. And based off of that additional knowledge, you can go in and revise and adjust. That's the beauty of lean planning, is that you're able to, along the way, pivot and make adjustments so that your plan reflects reality. All right, so let's get back here. So again, let me pull up, let me present here from the forecast. Sec. All right, so step 3 is forecast. Again, it can be as simple as bullet points, and then move from bullet points into a more sophisticated, like 12 months of where the money's coming in, revenue, where the money's going, cost of goods, where the money's going, expenses, where the money's going, personnel. Think through each of those categories. Again, I'll refer you back to SBA.gov. They've got templates that will help you with this. I know there's SCORE templates, which is where you can get more mentoring, bplans.com, and of course, Live Plan is great as well. So as you're forecasting, this is really the foundation of your business, but I'll draw your attention to that third point, revise and repeat, and that fourth point, expose it early and often. You want these numbers to be so familiar that as you're operating your business, you'll be able to quickly go back and say, wow, we sold through 30 boxes instead of 10. That was surprising. That's okay. Surprises are going to happen all the time in business. And so that's where we always look at the variance between the surprises and the plan, and then we move the plan and the surprises closer together. All right, so step 4, lean business plan. Now, keep in mind that the traditional plan, the lender will require certain deliverables. So the SBA template, bplans.com, Live Plan, those are tools that will help you build a lender-ready plan as needed. For everyone else, if you don't have someone asking you for a deliverable, then we always recommend the plan side of it to be more of a collection of strategic thoughts. Again, it doesn't need to be a formalized, well-written business plan unless someone's asking for it. It can be as informal as thinking through structurally the different elements of execution, operations, personnel, marketing. You can bullet point these. It can be in a Google Doc, a Word doc, a template. You could use Live Plan. There are different ways to do this, but ultimately with a lean plan, it's intended to be always in draft form until you have a planning event, which then in that moment you would get it ready, deliver it, but then you're right back into draft form. The forecast is always adjusting. The plan is always adjusting. And then we also actually recommend, not all businesses even need step 4, which is a little bit more meat on the bones. Sometimes step 1 with the business model canvas or the 1-page summary plan, and then the forecast is actually the best use of lean planning. You don't need to do more than what is necessary. The forecast is the minimum with then a 1-page summary. Lastly, and this is really kind of to wrap it all up. So why lean planning? You know, what's the purpose of doing all of this? And ultimately, it's to ensure that the gap between your goal and your plan is as small as possible, between the gap between that and reality. And we always like to use the analogy of the Apple Watch or the Fitbit, you know, with your health related goals. You know, maybe you're wanting to move more, take more steps, you've got the pedometer, you know, maybe you want to get stronger, faster, lose weight, all those different things that we are very familiar with in terms of our personal goals and managing our personal health. Lean planning acts in the same way for your business, so that you're able to maintain solid business health. And so the way that you do that is actually, once you're post revenue, you start to work with some type of an accounting system. QuickBooks Online is I think by and large the most used and most popular in the US. But QuickBooks Online, Xero, maybe just using a spreadsheet template, you know, however you're doing your accounting, use that in conjunction with your forecast as the ultimate management tool. So at the end of the month, you close out your books. This is how much money came in. This is how much money went out. You directly compare that to your forecast. This is what we planned to bring in. This is what we planned to go out. So that then every month you're making adjustments to your operations as well as to your plan, so that you're the most realistic and aware of how to meet those goals by year end or by the end of the quarter. So that's kind of the punchline of lean planning: is everything is in draft form, it's cyclical, you're constantly revising and revisiting, and then ultimately where the rubber meets the road is where you bring in your actuals from your up and running business and then compare those with your forecasted, you know, your planned reality. So I'll leave you with this, and then we'll see if there are any questions. This was a quote from a recent student using LivePlan, and so this will be just the one kind of you know, promotional element. He says, for any entrepreneur, especially a young one, LivePlan takes the daunting task of creating a business plan and segments it into far more palatable tasks with great examples. This, combined with how incredibly intuitive it is, gives confidence you can handle anything from analytical cash flow projections to executive summaries. So again, LivePlan's a great tool. We've produced it to help make your life easier, but as a recap of everything we've talked about today, I just want to remind you that lean planning can be done with a Word doc and an Excel template. There are free resources out there at sba.gov, canvanizer.com, bplans.com. So know that the tool, that you are rich with opportunity with the resources to start to implement these practices of lean planning. So, all right, with that, let's just pause, see if there are any questions from today's talk.
Thank you so much, Josh, for a wonderful presentation and for all those amazing resources that you shared. What questions do we have in here?
I have a question.
Okay.
Does LivePlan, do they offer any market research tools, or do you guys help, I guess, progress it from the lean planning to the full business model at all?
So directly, as far as market research tools, we don't offer anything like an IBIS world. We have in LivePlan something called the benchmarks tab. Here, I'll just show you real quick. But what it offers is industry data. Let's see here. In the benchmark tab, this industry data comes from a company called SageWorks, but it's all data focused, so it's not going to tell you anything specific about your types of customers and things like that. It's going to talk about, you know, benchmark margins, you know, days to get paid, inventory on hand, and things like that. So we often refer our clients, you know, users of LivePlan, we, you know, refer them to local incubators, accelerators, other entrepreneurial resources to do some of that research.
Awesome, thank you. What other questions do we have? Anybody else? Cool, yeah. Josh, did you include your contact information anywhere in this presentation, or is that something you could send over?
Yeah, I could send it over. I did not include it, but let me.
No worries.
Yeah, it's my email. It's my first name, Josh, and then the letter F, which is the first initial of my last name, Fegles. So Josh F at paloalto.com. If you got any further questions, feel free to contact me directly.
Yeah, perfect. And that'll, again, this is all recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel. So I'm glad that you said that out loud. But thank you again so much for a wonderful presentation. I'm sure you'll have some more questions as people let your content kind of marinate. But just as a reminder, keep an eye out to those of you listening, keep an eye out for our next webinar on April 30th. It's going to be about how to price your devices and products in the medical industry. So tune in for that. But thank you again so much, Josh, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.